It is said that lightning never strikes twice. And I hope that's the case because I never want to experience it again. But let me tell you about the first time it happened to me. I was in ninth grade, and at that point I was in marching band, jazz band, and our regular band. So I didn't have a lot of chances to feel like I was cool or special or important. But one time they told us that we were going on a band trip to an amusement park. I mean, to a competition. Right, a competition first in the morning, and then the afternoon was going to be all amusement park. So we did. We loaded up in a bus, and we drove a few hours away from home, and we performed on stage at someone else's high school, and we got our score, and then we loaded up into buses and went where everyone wanted to go, what we really cared about as kids, to this amusement park, which is now Six Flags, by the way. So we got to the amusement park, we piled off the buses, and they gave us some instructions, and they said, okay, here's the central meeting point. This is a gigantic pavilion. It's basically the food court for this amusement park, this flat roof, covered pavilion. If there's bad weather, we're going to meet here. If you have a medical need, we're going to meet here. This is where we're having lunch, and this is where we're going to meet at the end of the day to load up on the buses. Go have fun, be safe. So they turned us loose, and we went on a bunch of the rides. We went on the Tilt-A-Whirl and the Scrambler and the roller coasters, and we had a great time. But late afternoon, kind of right before we were supposed to leave anyway, my friends and I ended up on the farthest point of this amusement park where they had an arcade. And my friend had a roll of quarters that he had brought from home, and he wanted to play some arcade games. So I didn't have quarters, and I didn't want to play, but I was kind of sticking with this group. So we just watched him play for a while. And while I was watching him play, I became aware that it got really dark. Everything kind of dimmed. And at first, I thought I was blacking out for some reason from all the sugar or something. And I looked outside. This arcade game was right on the front of the arcade, and I looked outside and realized this dark black cloud had just moved in over the amusement park. And I said to my friends, guys, we should probably head back. It looks like it's going to rain like any second. He said, I'm almost done. I only have a couple more quarters left. We'll go in a couple minutes. They kind of brushed me off, and I said, okay, whatever. Well, within a few seconds, lightning and thunder started happening all around us. And we got one of those torrential downpours that you can really only imagine if you've experienced one. It's like on the movies where suddenly it goes from no rain to just downpour. Like the Truman Show or something. It was just like just pouring rain. And I was like, guys, now we got to go. I mean, we have to get all the way back to where we're supposed to meet everyone. And my friend said, well, I'm out of quarters anyway. Let's go. So we were going kind of from little stand to stand, game to game, building to building, trying to stay under a little bit of awning and covering as we went to try to stay dry. Well, after just 2 or 3 minutes, it was clear that that was an impossibility. We were just completely soaked in the middle of this torrential downpour and this thunderstorm. So the drainage system of this amusement park, hopefully Six Flags upgraded it, but at the time, it couldn't handle the quantity of water. And in the middle of the walkways between all the rides and everything, there were 4 to 5 inches of standing water on the ground. So we were just kicking and splashing through all of the water because at that point we were so soaked we didn't care. And we made it all the way back to the pavilion. It took us probably 15 minutes to get all the way back. Meanwhile, lightning is striking the rides and things around us, and they had to shut them down. The elevator was closed because as we were walking back to the pavilion, we saw lightning strike it several times. So we get back to the pavilion, and it was a great meeting place for our band, but pretty much everyone else at the amusement park had decided that that was their meeting place too, and it was one of the only large covered areas. So everyone was packed in there. This place that really could only fit a couple hundred people had probably 1,000 people just packed in there. So by the time my friends and I got there, we were kind of on the outskirts of the pavilion anyway, and we were still getting wet from the rain. So my friend and I, several of us, just didn't care. We didn't stand under the pavilion like the rest of the people. And there was still so much water falling on the top of this pavilion. It just sounded like this deep rumbling noise, like it was this rain falling on the roof of this flat building. And all of that rain had to go somewhere. And it was coming out of downspouts that, no joke, were probably this big. Just these huge downspouts on the corner. And they didn't have like a nice, gutter type run down to the ground and then a flare like you have on your house. It was just a hole in the ceiling. And it was just pouring out of that soffit in that hole and just splashing everywhere. So my friend and I were standing near a couple of these downspouts anyway. And we were so wet and so soaked anyway. We were like, let's take a shower. This is like a shower. So we're standing under these downspouts and literally going, well, I'm singing in the rain, right? When suddenly, like a flash of lightning, because it was a flash of lightning, lightning struck the pavilion that we were standing under, traveled through the water on the top of the building and down those downspouts and into our bodies. And if you've ever licked a 9-volt battery, or touched it to your tongue, that's exactly what it felt like, but over my entire body. And I involuntarily went, whoa, like it moved my arms, like I was trying to get jiggy with it or something. It was the strangest sensation. It felt so unnerving and uncomfortable that even now I have that feeling as I recount this story. So no, I wasn't struck directly by lightning. I was fortunate enough to not be struck directly by lightning, but I certainly felt the electricity traveling through that water as it poured down on my head. It's an experience that I've never forgotten and one that I don't care to repeat. And ever since that time, when I see lightning, I'm much more cautious around it. All right. That'll do it for this story. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I tell these stories and I call them stories. They're not made up. These are real things that happened to me. And I have a couple of friends who were there who have vouched for me on this. It was weird. And what should have been memorable for being a fun day at an amusement park became memorable because I got struck by lightning.